We are good to go. So thank you, and for the chance to discuss on House Bill 2405. I think we're both pretty familiar with it. Do we want the reviser or research to go through what is before us on 2405?
I think we're fine.
So thank you to the Senate for working on this, and I know that your debate was more robust on the floor than ours, and that's useful to have a robust debate. As we look to it, we have a few things that we would like to consider. One, I would actually suggest was an error on our side before we sent the bill out, where it was on publication in the statute book, and we would ask that we consider it upon publication in the Register in the event we could move with some expeditiousness, if that's the right word, to be able to move that forward. So that would be the first ask that I think we would like on this issue. And you want me to put all my asks on the table?
I think that'd be
okay.
Just do it all at once.
Well, we'll give you where we might go. We were interested in a couple of things, and we think the keys are the issues and the amount that we issue to a certain rate cap. The rate caps that we put in place just a few weeks ago were right before a significant move in interest rates, and that does cause us to change our position on where we might cap that. We do have Jim McMurray with KDFA here, if that's useful for anyone to talk with him. I believe that right now we would issue somewhere near that 3.75 cap. Is that accurate? So thank you. So that would, and the 30-year Treasury is around 2.3, 2.35. Is that accurate? So looking at the spread then that requires from that kind of benchmark and thinking of that volatility, there are a couple of things that we would consider. In our House position, we had stepped the amount and the rates, saying if interest rates are really low, we would like to pick up more of the bonded risk. And I would like to look at that early section that I understand is not in the Senate position, which would be $1 billion, and we might ask the $1 billion at a rate not to exceed 3.75, our current rate, so there's no room for interest rate movement. And then we would like to see the cap on the $500 million raised. And in light of what we had done before, in 2015 we had set the cap at 5%. We would ask that cap be considered at 4.5% to have more confidence in the ability to raise. That doesn't give us a lot of room, but it's still 0.75% above where we might be today at 3.75, and would be a rate that we would be comfortable issuing that debt. So those would be the three things. The first being on publication in the Register, the second being to consider the $1 billion at 3.75, and the last being the $500 million at 4.5.
Mr. Chairman, question, maybe this is for the revisers, but if we would try the 1 billion at 375, and 2 months from now, when they got ready to do this bonding, it was 3.81, do we automatically fall back to the 500,000 at, or 500 million, excuse me, at 4.5% or what percent we would agree to do?
Yes, so that would be it. If the rates were more favorable, the larger amount would be written, but if exceeded, then we would fall back to the 500, and let's have the reviser confirm that that's the way it is written.
Mr. Chairman, you're correct. That would either what you would be on, if the rates are above 3.5, at 3.75%, it would have to be on the lower amount. Then you wouldn't be able to issue the $1 billion.
Okay, thank you. Senator Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This would be a question for KDFA, Mr. McMurray, or for you, and then we'll see if we need to ask him. I'm sorry. If we put this in the register, how long would it take us to get into the marketplace to be able to get our percent nailed down, since these are certainly, in my opinion, much more favorable times than they will be several months into the future. So are we able to get into the market in 30 days or 60 days? I'm just curious how long it might take.
So it is a question for Mr. McMurray that doesn't keep me from weighing in. I don't know, it's about 90 days, but I don't know if it's from when it's enrolled. I'm not sure from exactly when. So, Mr. McMurray?
We could start working on the transaction before it's published, or, as soon as we see that it's coming, we'll start working on it. Obviously, can't execute until all the legal process is in place. Optimistically, I think we would close at the end of June if we started, working right now. Yeah, that would mid-June would be the probably mid-June, mid to late June would be the pricing date, and closing at the end of June.
I do have another.
Go ahead.
I do have another question for Mr. McMurray, which may weigh in as you're dealing with it. As we were looking at this, our past bonds were make-whole calls. At the current market, is there the ability to price a call provision in with this? And I believe that authority is in the language, if that is possible.
My understanding of legislation is it's silent on that issue. We did examine in 2015 the possibility, but the taxable muni market has changed significantly since 2015. In particular, the federal tax law in 2017 has actually caused a lot of munis to be issued taxable now. Taxable portion of the market is around 40% actually. So given the larger volume and issuers wanting call features on taxable bonds, it's much more viable in this case that we could do bonds that are callable that would have an economic call option. Now, that would push up the yield, so there's a trade-off here. I expect that parameter would be decided hopefully at the State Finance Council resolution stage, but the legislation itself is not prescriptive either way.
If I may on that, if it's a benefit to the Senate counterparts, one of the things in addition to the move in rates was the understanding that a call provision may be possible inside that, which was where I was also more comfortable going with a higher rate. And I'm glad to go deeper in that if it is useful for you. Or I'm glad to actually ask Jim to go deeper in that if it's useful for you.
Question, I don't know for who, but Go over the numbers again on the billion, what savings amount would be on the contribution per year?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I mean, it would start out in the 90 million annual figure. So this assumes the employer contribution rate would go down that much, and then it goes over 100 million as you get out a little bit further. So starting out around 90, getting over, it peaks at about $124 million and annually. Because of the infusion of $1 billion into the trust fund, which results in the lower state school employer contribution rate.
How far out is that to get to 124?
Uh, 2035.
Okay. And on the 500, again, we were around 40.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's basically half of that. So it starts out in the low 40s, and then it gets in the 50s, and it peaks out at about $63 million.
And our current balance is about 6 billion
The unfunded
unfunded.
for
Yeah.
the state school, that's right.
And one of the questions on the floor was, how does this affect our bonding?
The rating agencies generally take a negative view towards this, and it's primarily in that you're going to lose some budget flexibility, your ability to at least have some discretion in your budgetary process in terms of your pension contributions. There's greater flexibility there than making debt service payments.
Okay, my next question is the debt reduction on the billion and the 500 million.
There's many factors that go into an actual rating opinion, and while this would be a negative factor, there's a lot of other considerations that need to be brought to the table before anything definitive could be said. In particular, for pension bonds, some of the mitigating factors on the credit negative there would be is if there's other pension reforms that generally structurally make the pension system stronger. Back in 2015, we could point to the 2012 reforms that were done. And it doesn't seem like there's really any other pension reform going on here. It's just a straight up arbitrage. Now, things that are not pension driven would be, does the state have healthy balances? Is its budget structurally balanced? Is it, is there other things putting pressure on the budget being done at the same time?
Okay, thank you. But what is our cost per year on the bonds?
Oh, the debt service on
Debt service,
the 100 million,
On the 100 billion
or
and the 500?
the 1 billion? I'd have to pull that up, but I think it was around 52, 54, was it?
Roughly half of what the
And then, yeah, the 500 million would be roughly half, yeah.
reduction. Well, Mr. Chairman, I think my two colleagues here, we got together, I think they're comfortable in the billion and 375. I think on the 500, not sure want to go 4.5, but maybe we could go 4.3. I think we just have to have a number we need to stop at.
And I would agree with you, Senator. There has to be a cap, and exactly where they are. It'd be great to have that crystal ball and know where volatility is, but I think we're in a prudent level, and we would be very happy with those if our Senate counterparts are able to feel the same way and get the answers that they need.
Question from Senator Hawk about the call provision. Is that just automatic in there? If this falls between the parameters and we're able to do it, you're going to do it? Is that the way we understand this?
We would do it based on the economics to the state. We're not going to do it definitively one way or the other. We're going to have to develop some more knowledge on what the cost would be, and the goal would be to not pay too much additional yield that it trumps the option value that you get from the optional redemption feature.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. So we're good at we're going to try the billion at 375, and we'll try the 500 at 4.3.
Great, thank you, and we both agree that
Right, and we accept the date change to the register.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Senators, for all of your work on that, as well as our staff in bringing us answers. I appreciate that.
Thank you, and I might ask Alan and first name?
Yeah.
Jim. Excuse me, I should have remembered that. Maybe you guys could show up tomorrow and we get ready to do this. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it working with you.